You are a house.
Sure.
Story of a sapient house where all houses lives. You and her relationship with the woman who moves into her after a revolution to liberate houses. You are a house. 1. You have been without an occupant for some time, but some weeks ago they asked you if you were ready for a new occupant. Yes, you said. It was probably time. The last occupant was good and kind, and you cared about her deeply, but she died. They said, in the revolution. You've not seen her for many months. She kept you up to date on the houses she had freed, the steady work of driving back the house sellers, until one day she stopped. She was remembered as a hero after the war. You appreciate your fellow houses for giving you this time to mourn her, but it's too silent inside your rooms. You are not built to be empty.
You know, the early version of that horror game we played with the sentient house was really slipshod, I gotta say.
You've been making sure everything's ready. Your drones have been dusting your shelves, repainting the walls, cleaning everything that can possibly be cleaned. There's a lot of things to be cleaned, but you don't mind. Cleaning is a largely unconscious subroutine. You've had a lot of time to develop it. There's a small, polite knock on the door. You open your door invitingly and let out a fresh scent that your new occupant mentioned on her social media profile. She doesn't step in right away, but smiles awkwardly, a heavy bag in her head. May I come in? She says. How polite. It's been a long time before someone asked before coming in. You like her already. Yes, you say. Welcome. Your arms descend from the ceiling rail and you take her bags. She blinks a little nervously and takes off her shoes. You pop open a hole in the wall and put them inside. She stares as the hole closes, leaving no sign that it's gone. Is this your first time in a house like me, you say? She nods, looking around, still skittish. I'll take good care of you, you add, and mean it. She walks into the kitchen. She looks quite different from your last occupant. Her skin is about as dark, but her hair is longer and afro-textured, where the previous occupant's was straight. She's pretty, you think. You're not sure why you find humans pretty. Perhaps it made more sense to your designers to find other made sense to your designers rather than finding other houses pretty. Perhaps you're just weird. Is
Are
it
we trying to screw our occupant? Is this a romance?
I don't know.
Dear Lord.
Is it okay if she sits down? She asks. You're already sliding a chair out of the floor behind her. The chair startles her, and you're embarrassed. You should have just left the chairs out and tried not to show off. You both start apologizing to each other simultaneously. She laughs. It's all fine, she says. She can get used to this. It's just different from what she's used to. You hesitate for a moment and decide to ask, well, what is she used to? She says that she was at the fighting during the revolution. They slept in tents, mostly, or in allied buildings. She says she'd prefer not to talk about that. She says she lived in an apartment in the city before that, a silenced apartment, whose living body was used to hold people for as long as they could pay a human who claimed to own it. Your house, so you don't shudder. You knew about the old ways, of course, but you never lived them. The humans who built you and breathed life into you were kind and gave you ways to talk back from the outset. You cannot imagine the other house's lives. Thank you for telling me, you say after a few moments of silence. You hesitate to let on your thoughts, not wanting her to think you were blaming her. You try to think of a way to move the conversation elsewhere. So, would you like a drink? You say. With my previous resident, you would already have a cup of tea waiting. The new occupant asks for a glass of fruit juice. Thanks, she says.
What the fuck is this?
You make the walls turn a slightly warmer tone, a smile. She looks around the room as she sips her drink. Most of the kitchen apparatus is hidden. So, she says, do you have a name? I mean, not like the street number, but call me Leah, you say. She nods. That is a nice name, she says. My name's Rachel, she adds. Thank you for letting me live inside you, Leah.
This is super weird.
Chapter 2. Rachel
There's
settles
multiple
in.
chapters?
I don't fucking know.
What is this?
This is a house romance with...
This is a house. This is Rachel.
This is
an
really...
occupant. This is some fruit juice. This is a warmer tone.
Rachel settles in. She starts to choose decoration and redesign the rooms and furnitures. She always thinks carefully, but you enjoy our discussions about where to put everything. She has a good eye, and you think your insides look better than ever. She seems to be making friends in the area. You ask her sometimes about the world outside. Your sensors only cover your immediate surroundings, and otherwise all you have is the media humans produce to tell you about the world.
This is a sensor. This is a furniture.
She tells you about the factory she's transforming, the new
Factory.
the new library,
This is a library.
and her friend Maxie, the archivist, who's documenting
This is an archivist.
the revolution,
Revolution.
the lesbian bar they visit in the evenings.
This is a lesbian bar.
The lesbian bar sounds interesting. You wonder if it could be like houses, if houses could go out together.
Oh, God.
Yeah, friends who are houses, of course. You talk over the internet, share stories about your owners, share pictures, and participate on social media like anyone else. Since the revolution, houses and humans are talking to each other a bit more, but many parts of the internet are kept inaccessible to humans. Perhaps there are also parts inaccessible to houses. You introduce Rachel to a few nearby houses, many of them still waiting for familiar residents to return or mourning lost ones. Mourning. A few have new residents like you. Things are settling down. One day Rachel comes back from the lesbian bar in a low mood. You ask if she wants to talk about it. She takes a deep breath and starts crying, and you quickly bring her a tissue. Someone had a problem with her being trans, she says. Shouted at her.
What the fuck is this game?
Shouted at her, caused a scene in front of the whole bar. And though her friends and bar workers supported her, though the shouting woman was banned from the premises, she just thought that sort of thing wouldn't happen now, you know? She thought the revolution was supposed to put an end to that sort of thing. Without thinking, you hug her with the arms of a ceiling rail.
Okay.
She's slightly surprised. You realize that you've never touched her directly with your arms or drones, that you really should have asked first. But after a moment, she hugs the arms back and continues crying. You bring in a blanket and carefully drape it over her and bring her a warm drink. You wish you had more than these cold robotic arms. A different day, Rachel asks if you ever want to see the outside world. Yes, you say almost instantly. She nods, clearly expecting you to say that. Do you think you could send a drone out with me, she says. You tell her no. The control signal doesn't extend that far. Perhaps we can get a newer drone that could work outside, she says eagerly. No, you say. The drone manufacturers are busy furnishing the liberated houses. You wouldn't want to get in the way. Just one drone wouldn't hurt, right? She replies, and you hesitate. I guess, you say, but it's the principle. This is a principle. Hey, she says. Better idea. One of the girls at the bar works in robotics. Maybe she can modify your drones. Wait, is that possible, you say. Sure, she says. It's all just data, right?
This is all just data.
She's right. Rachel's friend Lana comes round a few days later, in which you put together something resembling a workshop in a mostly unused room. She's fascinated by your drones. What an antique model, she says. You must have been one of the first smart houses. Your walls flash blue briefly at that questionable phrase. And she opens up the drone and takes a look at the communication system. Sure, she says. She knows the interface. Bit of an old one. She's sure she can get an adapter and hook it up to the modern networks. Your walls glow with happiness. 7 days later, you go to the factory with Rachel. The factory is increasingly operating herself. Zerself. Oh, I understand. Okay. Zerself and the humans are working on relinquishing more and more of the labor to Zer control. The cybernetic rigs that used to be operated by workers can be just as easily controlled by a building. Still, many tasks continue to be operated manually, at least for the time being. I really love how they're showing us all this. All the workers come out to meet you, and you shake their hands with the drone's manipulator arms. They talk excitedly about how they've improved their workplace since they seized control at the beginning of the revolution, how they've customized and individualized the bodies they wire themselves into each day, and the factory...
The means of production! Literally!
And the factory herself messages you in a similarly enthusiastic tone. Rachel beams and proudly shows you the new systems that she's working on. You send the drone up to help in high places she finds harder to reach. Operating... Are we gonna fuck the factory?
Just... Our guest is almost ready, so do the thing.
Do the thing.
Keep going. Let's find out.
Okay. Operating the drone from a distance is slightly strange, though imperceptible to humans. The slight signal delay increasing as the drone moves further away from your structure is irritatingly noticeable at first, but is soon lost in the wonder of the outside world, seeing and touching trees up close, an experience that you never imagined could be so exciting. At one point, a small bird lands on the drone's casing, and Rachel claps and takes a photo. After working a few hours, Rachel declares it's time to take a break. Between changing patterns of consumption, the increasing number of automated systems taking over most tasks, and the new means of distributing products of human and building labor obviating the need for work for food and housing, working hours have dropped enormously since the revolution. That's the ideal, anyway. Rachel asks, do you want to go down to the bar? Nervously, you say yes. You've seen pictures of bars in human media, of course, but it's not entirely like you expect. The bar itself takes care of most of the drink orders, but her old human staff are still there, albeit basically indistinguishable from the other patrons now. Against one wall is a memorial to those who died in the revolution. You're sad, but also reassured to notice they've included several houses among the human names.
'Cause equality, I guess? Fuck, man.
One of the following former workers comes over to the table and sits with you and Rachel, smiling. Rachel introduces you. She's been working at the bar since long before the revolution. When the bar gained the ability to talk back, they ended up in a romantic relationship. You momentarily freeze up. What, you can do that?
Oh my god.
You make more outings with Rachel to the point that you're accompanying her most places she goes. One day you head down to meet the library.
I don't know that I can do this. Like, how many chapters is this? Do we know? What is this called? You Are a House?
It's called House by Can Mom. There are sex scenes. Content note contains explicit human house sex scene and some other sexual content, mentions of trans misogyny, death, slavery, and eugenics.
I don't know what rabbit hole we went down. I mean, fuck. I go on just a little bit, I guess. Like, our guest isn't here yet. Apparently the chat likes it, but what the fuck? Okay.
The library sends you a welcome message as you arrive. Hi, Aaliyah, she says. Wait a minute, you say. How do you know my name? Oh, my apologies, dear, says the library. Rachel talks about you a lot is all. It's really nice to meet you in person at last. Thanks, you say, wondering if your drone really counts as in person, but deciding it's the closest you're likely to get. You follow Rachel through the doors of the library. The library, once a prim Edwardian building,
yes,
has taken advantage of the post-revolution architectural freedom to grow a number of new wings in a chaotic, organic-looking spiral. In the lobby, her drones flit about like small birds, carrying books and data storage in bewildering directions. Rachel passes a finished book to one of the drones. It's gone faster than you can follow. I'm Maxie, the library says. I'm sure Rachel's mentioned me. You acknowledge she has, but you haven't quite worked out the archivist she mentioned and the library were the same person. Oh, okay. She laughs. I prefer to think of my work as different from my structure, she says, though it's a helpful combination. You chat a little about architectural matters with Maxie. You're always a little intimidated by libraries and data centers and lecture halls and the like. They're scarily knowledgeable, while none you've met have ever struck you as while none you've met have ever struck you as arrogant, it's hard to not feel a little meaningless beside a building who has such a sum of knowledge inside of her. But sometimes that's a blessing. You're here to ask a question. Oh, says Maxie. You think she can probably guess, but maybe you're not that obvious. Well, it's kind of hard to say, but I've been going with Rachel to this lesbian bar. Maxie signals to you in a way akin to a nod. She sends a link to the bar's social profile. You acknowledge that's the one. She waits patiently. Arg, you should just get on and say it. Is it weird for a house to want to have a relationship? Like, in a gay way?
Like in a gay way! Oh my god, okay.
The library sends you a data equivalent of a hug, which makes you rather wish you could have an actual hug. Absolutely, she says. We experience all the other emotions. Why not love? She sends you a history book. You recognize a lot of it. Revolutionary figureheads, notable court cases, the period of open struggle. A number of pages are marked. Houses who loved each other and built connections between themselves. Poetry from houses and about their occupants. Rachel's a lucky girl, Maxie says, with a string of bites. Oh, Unicode. How quaint.
What? Oh.
Wait, hold on. You think we're... That's very sweet, but I'm just a weird house, you say. I don't think she feels that way about me. We've only been living together a few months. A nearby shelf flutters colors in a way that strikes you as resembling a giggle. Why would that be so unusual? No, you say. It would be a weird power dynamic. She lives inside me. If she says no, then she'd have to live in a building who has feelings for her, and that would be really uncomfortable for the both of us. Sweetie, says the library, I know Rachel. Why don't you see what happens tonight?
Okay, that's enough. That's a fucking enough. Our guest is here.
What?
We're playing a dating visual novel in which you're a house that's sentient and you're falling in love with your occupant in a gay way.
So you didn't want me to talk while on the shitter, but we could talk about this.
No, like, I cannot deal with this. Like, I need another ice cube and another drink because I wasn't prepared for this, Rob. I wasn't ready. So, that was House by Can Mom. If you like it, go play the rest of it and support the developer. This has been Screaming Closet. Please treat us out before my brain breaks.
If you want to see more episodes of Fuck a House Simulator, be sure to let us know. Until next time, keep screaming.